I really believe that a woman's right to an abortion is a right to her own body, and if we deny women that right, then we are state-owned property. Period, end of story.
This week on Between You and Me, I sit down with actor, comedian, and podcast maven June Diane Raphael. June spent the past 5 seasons as Brianna, Jane Fonda's cussing Queen Bee daughter on the Netflix hit show Grace and Frankie. And now she's also leaning into activism, co-founding a space for working mums and writing a book encouraging women to run for office.
Why did you decide to write a book about sort of I guess it's a guidebook or it's a toolkit really for women who want to consider running for office?
Yes, that's a great way to describe it. It is all those things. So I had become, after Trump's election, kind of obsessed with the idea of how this man won, and also how public service and civic engagement is sometimes left or seen as left best for others to do, right?
You just didn't want to feel like a bystander anymore? Or
Well, it was a sense of our democracy is crumbling before my very eyes. And if this motherfucker can do it, why can't I?
I think you're right though about there's like the notion that maybe the barriers are kind of intentionally there, or the way that sort of public service is presented to us is that there are all these hurdles and challenges, almost specifically to keep people out so that they can't.
So I think there are the very real external challenges and hurdles for women who are thinking of running for office. Raising money is the big one, and it's even more challenging for women of color. That's real. There's data. You can't deny that. But then there are also the internal barriers and challenges. We live in a sexist, misogynistic, patriarchal society, and we are also in the society breathing in those ideas, and often about ourselves. And so I think the specific challenges that women have are feeling that they are ready, feeling that they are experienced.
Because for so long, these ideas have been reinforced in us that it's a white man's job.
Absolutely. And what I hope for with the book is that it provides a woman who is interested in the idea with some steps to take, some benchmarks. We don't teach civics anymore. You know, so many of us don't even understand how the government actually works. So when I was personally having this moment of crisis and thinking, do I run for LAUSD school board? What do I do here? I went on the internet and couldn't find a comprehensive guide, couldn't find anything.
Like a step-by-step of like, if I
step-by-step.
want to do it,
Yes.
how do I even get started?
What is the first question I would ask myself? What would I do first?
Do I have a penis?
And yes, I don't. Okay, that's gonna hurt me.
Big impediment.
Great.
All right.
I'll stop here and I will close that tab and I will go watch The Real Housewives of New York City. That was that moment. But yeah, I just loved the idea of creating something where, you know, it was accessible, it's comedic, but it's really fact-filled, and that is in large part because of my co-author, Kate Black, who I found by simply cold calling Emily's list. But we had an amazing connection, and she is really the resource in this book. She is the one who has all the data. She is the one who, when I would ask a question as simple as, you know, I have like pictures that I know I've sent dudes in my single days, like, what would I do? These are questions that young women more and more are going to start asking.
Well, and it does ruin campaigns. I mean, Crystal Ball, that happened to her. She wanted to run for a public position, and someone did find a photo of her. I think that it was like from some party in her college years. It really did impede her being able to do it.
Of course, yes. Yeah. And I think that's starting to change, but I also think that it takes more and more women putting themselves out there and saying, like, I will not be ashamed about this, I will not apologize for it, and here's who I am and here's why I deserve to be here.
What did you think when these early abortion bills were starting to be passed and Hollywood sort of seemed to step up? Like, you had productions kind of pull out of Atlanta where they were exploring, you know, like heartbeat bills and things like that. Were you proud in those moments of, you know, the industry that you're sort of a part of, making that kind of stand? Did you think it was enough?
I mean, I don't think any of it's enough. I really believe that a woman's right to an abortion is a right to her own body, and if we deny women that right, then we are state-owned property. So That's my personal belief that if we start talking about heartbeat bills and all of these other sort of insidious ways that the Republican Party has gone about stripping state by state pregnant people their right to choose and to have an abortion. If you don't have the right of like sovereignty over your body, you're owned by the state. Period, end of story. So to me, that's an issue. Yes, Hollywood's done some, but it's hard for me to praise them.
Sort
I
of
really
be
think we should
content
all be
about
out
it.
on the streets.
I think for you as well, because you were pregnant on our screens, right? Like, you know, and I think that for something that is so private and you've kind of had to handle it so publicly, did that issue sort of have more resonance almost for you? Because you're like, wait a second, like, this is, you know, like you say, this is my body.
I mean, I've experienced both sides of it. I've experienced fighting for an early pregnancy. I've experienced losing an early pregnancy and hoping an early pregnancy would work out. However, there is nothing in me that feels that my own personal relationship to my body and fighting for early pregnancies to survive has anything to do with a woman's right to choose.
Do you talk to your kids about the political environment? I feel like that's a challenging thing, right?
It's interesting. We have talked about Trump to our oldest, who's 5. I think the way we were addressing it was when we were talking about bodies and one's agency over one's body. And even if people are in positions of power, they don't have power over your body. And even like your mom and dad, like I don't get to touch your body, you know, and just sort of starting these conversations at a very early age about consent, about how great it is to have a say in what happens to your body. And so we did bring up Trump because we were talking about leaders and people who are in positions where you might assume that they should be good and that they should be, you know,
with the president.
Right.
It's like
exactly.
a positive thing, right?
But letting them know that they can actually question everyone.
You co-founded a women's working space.
Yes.
But it kind of has a twist.
Yeah, we call it the mother of all workspaces. The reason why I founded the Jane Club was because I really needed it. I have had 2 children and felt very much so that there was a conversation around women having it all and having their personal lives and their family lives and their careers, and a lot of panels where you listen to how one woman was successful at doing it and you're like, oh, okay, I'm listening. but no infrastructure to really support that idea.
Right.
So we're really focused on mothers. We're really focused on them succeeding and not having to apologize for taking care of their kids, or conversely apologize for pursuing paid work and professional achievement. And we have women who come into the space who are the word full-time mom is absurd because I work and get paid and I'm a full-time mom.
Yeah.
I'm never not a mom. So it's like, what?
And you don't exclude men from the Jane Club.
No, we have,
which I think
have
is
men
interesting.
who are members. Yeah.
Why was that important, like not to exclude men?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that the patriarchy affects us all negatively, and men suffer under it as well in a myriad of ways. So I don't believe that it's just one gender that suffers under it. And I think inviting men into the conversation around taking care of children and caretaking is incredibly important. I see even my own 2 sons, until they tell me otherwise, how I want to model for them that caretaking is something they can do. They can babysit. I don't want to gender that profession.
Right.
Because I don't think it should be gendered. So I think men are absolutely, all genders are welcome in our space. It's been great to see men walk into a space that has not been created necessarily for them, meaning we offer a lot of things that you would typically think are for women, from glam to, you know, all the stuff, workouts, a lot of Pilates, a lot of like pulsing.
Men need the Pilates too. Everyone needs a firm tushy.
Yes, but I'm also like, it's important for them to make some adjustments to be with us. And I see that happening a lot.
These are great.
One of the things I have noticed is that with the rise of women's only spaces, it seems to have happened kind of in step with the Me Too movement.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is, I think the great thing about Hillary getting to where she got and not making it has opened up so many conversations that, to me, when people talk about the Me Too movement, like as though it's happened, I'm like, oh, it hasn't even started, folks. Like, we got so much work to do. And I am interested when people talk about that, like the Me Too movement, that's something that's here in this box, that happened with all the people who said those things, right?
It's a static moment.
Right, exactly. And I think we want it to be, because it's so uncomfortable for men and women to unearth all of the ways in which we're affected by it, all of the ways in which we participate in these systems. So to me, I'm like, oh, yes, of course, being together, being in affinity spaces, being in community with women is so powerful. We're in this moment.
But like the beginnings.
But the very beginning to me. And so I'm really interested, and I'm also interested in what, I'm 39, but there are people who, the younger generation of women who are so much more free than I am about their bodies and their, I mean, I'm just like, what? What are you talking about?
It's an amazing...
Body positivity?
Well, and consent, even just the conversation they have around consent and
mind-blowing.
I just
so
think
I'm
back
just
to
like,
university and you're like, oh God, like the awkward sort of, fumblings that we all have, where you were just sort of like, I guess this is just how it goes. And no
absolutely.
one ever talked about consent.
Yep.
No one ever was like, is this okay?
No.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful, and I'm like, it's just beginning.
Thank you for watching Between You and Me. There are plenty more episodes, so you can click here and subscribe to watch more.